Welcome back to Objective 3 in Chapter 6 of Unit 9 in our 4A series. In this objective, we're going to explain the operating sequence of basic electric control circuits. And you'll be happy to hear that this is a very short objective that we can wrap this chapter up with. Okay then, so let's consider then a basic electric control system, and let's use a thermostat that we discussed the different types of in the last objective. So to set the scene, of course, a thermostat is going to be both a sensor and a controller to maintain a room or a space at a given temperature. So let's say, for example, we'll arbitrarily pick a value of 20 degrees C. That's a good standard air conditioning temperature for human comfort or occupancy. So the thermostat then is going to start and stop a burner of a forced air heater to control this space. So we can consider that idea of a control sequence by this algorithm or flowchart. So basically then we start here at the top left. So here you can see that the thermostat is going to sense an air temperature of 18 degrees C. Now the set point that we arbitrarily chose was 20 degrees C. So because this is below set point, the thermostat is going to close the contacts. Now in those first two steps, you can see or realize that our thermostat is both a sensor, i.e. that which measures the process variable, air temperature, and it's also a controller, i.e. it saw that the temperature was less than set point, so it closes a set of switch contacts. So the thermostat here has dual function, sensor and controller. So once the thermostat then closes the switch contacts, it's now going to energize the burner circuit, which is going to light off the burner of our forced air heater. Now, of course, that's going to generate heat, and it will now heat our space up, which means the temperature is now going to rise. Let's now say that the temperature reaches 21 degrees C. Well, our thermostat is now going to see that we are above set point. So therefore, it's going to open the set of switch contacts, which is therefore going to shut down the burner, and slowly then the space will cool. Once we then drop below set point again, doesn't have to be 18 degrees, can be 19 degrees, we then start the loop all over again. So you can see that this is a sort of up and down, or if you like, a round and about sequence where we simply have on, off, or intermittent control of a burner to control the air temperature of that space. So that's the basic idea here of the algorithm, if you like, or the control logic of how something simple like a thermostat would work. Our second example is one in which you may recognise, as we've used this example previously within this unit when talking about control loops. So this is electrical control of temperature of water, or domestic water if you prefer. So the basic idea of this is that we have a heat exchanger where cold water enters at one end and is heated by boiler water on the other side of the heat exchanger. Thereby, the domestic cold water will heat up, and we now get domestic hot water coming out the other end of our heat exchanger. The hot water that imparted its heat into the domestic water is obviously going to cool down, so we'll exit the other side of the heat exchanger before it returns to the boiler for reheating, and the loop repeats. Now we can see in the diagram of figure 18 of your textbook that there are only really two components of this control loop. That is the final control element, which is our electrical control valve, and our temperature controller, which obviously is the temperature controller, i.e. the controller of the loop, but also the sensing element, just like in our previous example. Now you'll notice that these two components are connected together by this blue hashed line. This line simply indicates, similarly like on a P&ID for example, that this is an electrical control signal from the controller to the final control element. Now this temperature controller here, while it's both the sensor and the controller, it's acting very similarly to the thermostat that we looked at in our previous example. The difference here is that this would be a modulating temperature controller in that it can vary between a minimum and a maximum value. So in other words, this temperature controller is basically a thermally operated potentiometer. So that means it's basically an aquastat with a dial on the front of it that we can vary. And by varying that dial, we vary the resistance, remembering that a potentiometer is a type of variable resistor. When we vary the resistance, we vary the current. And by varying the current, we can get a proportional control signal once again. So the signal will be larger the greater the degree of error between the set point and the process variable. So very much a modulating control system versus an intermittent or an on-off control system that we looked at previously. So the way in which this simply works is if we consider our domestic cold water entering the heat exchanger on the left, we're now going to flow that through a pipe with inside of our heat exchanger, or more likely a coil. On the other side of that heat exchanger, i.e. the shell side, we're going to put hot water in from the boiler. Now the position of the electrical control valve will determine how much hot water we flow through the heat exchanger. Well, the colder the domestic water is coming in, the more hot water we will flow through on the shell side. Now what makes that decision? That will be our temperature controller. And you can also see that it's feeding back on the loop. That is, the temperature controller is sensing the outlet temperature of our warm water out and now feeding back to our final control element to tell it to either further open if we are below set point or pinch off if we are above set point. So a very good contrast here, which is, in other words, it's doing a similar idea, only it's modulating versus two position. So that's the end of this chapter, and with it the end of Unit 9. Let's just wrap things up with this chapter by looking at a few multiple choice questions that you're likely to see on either a quiz or a final exam. So for our first question here, room thermostats should be located where? Behind doors, in direct sunlight, near warm air outlets, next to heating ducts, or none of the above. Well, if you recall, we need to place our thermostats in places where there is not an increase or decrease temperature spot. In other words, we want it to be in a nice average temperature spot so we get a good reading of the entire room. So where do you think that's most likely here of those options? Well, hopefully you're thinking here that it's answer E. In other words, A, B, C and D would all give rise to an elevated temperature or a decreased temperature without good natural circulation of the air, for example behind a door. For our next question, a bimetal thermostat's operating range is typically between what? 5 to 40, 0 to 50, 0 to 40, 10 to 32, or 50 to 90 degrees C. This is a very common question, this one, and this was the one that I asked you to annotate into your textbook as it's popped up very frequently. Hopefully you recognize this one as it's just a pure memory question, and the answer is D, 10 to 32 degrees C. Really common one, that one. Please note it. Next question. Which of the following is a variable resistor? Is that a potentiometer, a rheostat, a thermistor, both A and B, or is it all of them? Well, hopefully you've remembered these and you are thinking it is all of them. Potentiometers, rheostats and thermistors are all types of variable resistors. So hopefully you also recall that the difference between the rheostat and the potentiometer was that the rheostat had 2 connections and the potentiometer had 3 connections. The thermistor then was our non-linear response with either a positive or a negative temperature coefficient. Lots of questions can pop up on variable resistors. Next one. Contacts that complete a circuit when a relay is energized are called what? Is that normally open, normally closed, fail open, fail closed, or fail last position? Well, the way I remember this is with push to make and push to break. So I'm looking at that question and it says that the contacts that complete a circuit when a relay is energized. Well, in order to complete a circuit, you have to close the circuit, because if the circuit's closed, current will now flow. Well, how do you close the circuit? Do you push to make or do you push to break? I'm thinking that you push to make the circuit. So for example, you are pushing the circuit from an open position into a closed position. Hopefully you're following along with my thought process here of the idea of push to make and push to break. So in other words, if we put all that together, we could say that you would have to start the circuit from a normally open position because you are then closing it. You can easily mix these two up with A and B, but if you just think of like a light switch, for example, and the light is off, it's in the open position. When you then close the circuit, the light then turns on. So that's a way to think about that. Tricky little question, that one. Next one. On-off thermostats are equipped with what? An open contact switch, a high temperature switch, a low temperature switch, a high voltage switch, or a low voltage switch. Very common one, this one, and again it's a similar idea and a similar sort of concept to the previous question, in that our answer is an open contact switch. Be careful with this one pops up quite a lot, and all it simply means is that when the thermostat is bent away from the contacts, the circuit is open, i.e. the heat's not on. When it then heats up, the bimetallic switch will bend, make the contact, and it will then start the circuit. Of course, we could do that vice versa if it was a heating circuit versus a cooling circuit. We can set it up either way, normally open or normally closed. And that's it. That's the end of this chapter, and with it the end of the unit. So hopefully you've stuck with it and you've made it through, and you can now go ahead and give this chapter and indeed unit a good thorough review by finishing off the D2L chapter quiz as well as the knowledge exercise at the end of your textbook. Hope you enjoyed this one and you had fun with it, and then when you're ready, come back and see me and we'll get stuck into another unit. Take care, all the best.